Brought to you by runtogold.com, the premier source for monetary science applied to geopolitical, international, and economic, financial news and events. Welcome back to episode 20 of the runtogold.com podcast. We will be discussing the Great Credit Contraction, which is intensifying. Predictably, the Dow and the S&P 1500 are crashing. The Great Credit Contraction, similar to what some call a Kondratyov winter, is intensifying. Predictably, the Dow and S&P 1500, representing about 85% of the entire U.S. equity market, are continuing to crash. The Dow closed at 7,888.88, and the S&P 1500 closed at 187.70. The gold London PM fix was 909.75, and the silver fix was 12.96. This gives a Dow gold ratio of 8.67 ounces per Dow unit, an all-time low. I expect that this will probably continue trending lower in 2009, perhaps reaching 5 ounces of gold per Dow unit at the bottom. The Dow priced in silver is currently at 608.71 ounces per Dow unit. This is another low, but not quite an all-time low. Silver in backwardation. I have earlier explained the process and importance of both gold backwardation and silver backwardation, so I recommend either listening to those podcasts or reading those articles. Silver appears confused. The 1, 2, and 3 month silver contracts have been backwardated every day since the 21st of January to the 10th of February. The 6 month contract was backwardated but is popped back into contango on the 9th of February, but the rate drove lower on the 10th. The 12-month contract is also confused in a similar way. It makes me wonder, is the market sensing a true liquidity crisis? In other words, is there going to be a currency event, like hyperinflation or some other type of event that happens where only gold and silver or other commodities are used as currency because people don't want the illusions anymore? Anyway, something to think about. These give portents to the future, these valuations of both the Dow and the S&P and real estate when priced in gold. The Dow and S&P are hitting vicious record lows when priced in gold. Gold is the most powerful currency and functions as a presentation currency under International Accounting Standard 1. Every investor or holder of capital would be wise, and that includes you listening to this, to keep an extra set of income statements and balance sheets using gold as the presentation currency because of its monetary properties in assisting the mental calculations of value. Remember, the issue of whether to use gold as a presentation currency is a completely separate issue from whether to purchase gold. The current stock and real estate valuations, when priced in gold, portend the onset of an extremely serious depression. Yes, the Greater Depression has arrived, and this credit contraction may last years or decades, depending on how long the inmates, all infected with the financial insanity virus, are allowed to continue running the asylum in both Washington and Wall Street. Iceland, one of the first nations affected, has already collapsed. The last time this type of currency crisis affected America, the response was the Coinage Act of 1792. Under Section 19, the death penalty was prescribed for this type of ridiculousness that the inmates are currently engaged in. The earning capacity of corporations in terms of gold and silver is waning. The real estate stasis will continue as the credit contraction intensifies. The good businesses will continue running faster while going backwards on the moving sidewalk. Swimming upstream against the current was never easy for even the strongest salmon. The mediocre and bad businesses will either be bailed out or evaporate. While January had a modest 598,000 job losses, there will be millions and millions slashed by the end of 2009. The oil majors should have taken my advice on the 30th of December 2008 to just buy gold and wait. For individuals, corporations, and governments, there is no top line without a bottom line. One thing is for certain. As the great credit contraction continues grinding and intensifying, the generation of top lines will get more and more difficult. Well, you've been listening to the 20th episode of the RunToGold.com podcast. Thanks. You've been listening to the RunToGold.com podcast, the premier source for applied monetary science on the web.